snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So it is the last day of November, which I cannot believe. I cannot believe that it's December tomorrow and Christmas in 25 days, which is awesome. I'm so looking forward to Christmas. I cannot wait to do my December TBR, which will be up in the next few days, hopefully. And I'm just really looking forward to going home, spending time with my books, spending time reading, spending time all huddled up and snuggled up, keeping warm and sitting by the fire, putting up the Christmas tree. I'm really excited for everything. I have bought myself an advent calendar because I am quite in love with chocolate. I absolutely love it. And it is December tomorrow, and although my mum usually buys me one because I'm not actually going to be home until the 8th of December, thought I would buy myself one. If she's bought me one, I might have two. That would be brilliant. But yeah, I bought myself one and I'm really excited. I absolutely love advent calendars. They really make December just so much fun. Just let me know what you guys do for December. Do you get advent calendars? Do you put up the tree? Have you put up your tree already? Some people I know have put it up in November, which is crazy to me, but that's really cool. Do you get a real tree or do you get a fake tree as well? That's something I want to know. So I managed to read 14 books in the month of November, which I'm really happy with because I was still pretty busy in the month of November as well with uni work. And I've been really enjoying what I've been reading, most of it. Most of it, not all, but most. So that's great as well. Let's get into what I read. The first book that I managed to read in the month of November is Lord of Chaos, book number 6 in the Wheel of Time series, and this book I ended up loving. It took me a very, very long time to get through, a couple of months I believe, but I really enjoyed it. I think this is one of the best books in the series so far, and I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Highly would recommend this book in the series. It's great. And I was very excited to continue on with the rest of it, so that's a really cool thing. Great way to start off the month by finishing up this huge book and loving it. Next, with Amanda from the Marvellous Reading Room, we actually both read Pathfinder by Orson Scott Card, and we managed to finish this up in the first week or so of November, I believe. This is the story of Rig, who is a pathfinder, which basically means that he can see paths where people have walked before. He can see a faint line in the air that shows where anyone has been, and he goes on a big adventure with a couple of his friends, and he meets some people along the way who have interesting talents much like him. This is a sci-fi book and it's by Orson Scott Card. I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was decent, but I wasn't massively awed by it. I did anticipate a lot of what was coming. I am looking forward to the next one in the series, and I hopefully will be picking that up fairly soon, because I believe that the third one has recently come out, which is a full series, I think. Hopefully. I think it's only a trilogy, I'm not sure. So that's cool. Next, I listened to the audiobook of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. And I love this little book. It was a really short book to listen to. It's read by Stephen Fry, which is a great thing. And this was basically a romp around the universe, and it was all about being jokey, sarcastic, fun. It was just such a great kind of combination of all sorts of different things, and it was really entertaining to listen to, and I just highly enjoyed this. A lot of people have said that it used to be a radio show, which I didn't actually know, but that's really cool, and I can definitely see hints of that. It's great. I would definitely recommend this series. I don't know why I didn't pick it up before, but yeah, 5 stars for that one. Next, I picked up Mitosis, which is by Brandon Sanderson, and this is a novella which goes between Steelheart and Firefight, which are the first 2 books in the Reckoners series by Sanderson. This is his YA series, and it's set in a world where people live under the rule and the tyranny of the Epics, and the Epics are kind of superheroes, but they're villains, so they're super villains. They've got all sorts of cool powers, but they're basically crazy because of the power that they have. And this story is set between the first book and the second book. The second book is due out early next year. And I was really happy to finally read this because it got me back into the world. It made me excited for the second book, and I just really enjoyed it. It wasn't amazing because it's only a novella. It's quite short and snappy. I did enjoy the idea of the bad guy, and I think it's just a really fun action-packed storyline. So 3 out of 5 stars for that one. Then I ended up reading Centrifugal, which is a short story by Brandon Sanderson. This is actually the first short story that he ever wrote, and he submitted it into a competition. This is the story of a family who for years and years have been planning to kind of harvest the power from a massive supernova, and it's basically the story of what goes wrong when this supernova finally explodes, which I thought was really, really fun. It definitely isn't his finest work. It's not a polished piece of Sanderson work because it is written back in 1994, which was actually the year I was born, so it's pretty old. But I did really enjoy it. I thought it was definitely interesting to show the roots of Sanderson, like where he came from, the ideas he had when he was back in high school, and it really shows the progression that he's had throughout his career. So 3 out of 5 stars for that one as well. And that one was actually free on his website along with the next 2 that I'm going to mention. So if you want to go and read them, just go and look up his website and you can go read them for free. The next one that I read off of his website is Defending Elysium, which is a short story kind of novella, and this is a sci-fi story set in a world where people have moved off of Earth. There is a big company called the Phone Company who controls everything, and it's kind of an adventure story. It's also kind of a mystery story, but it is obviously sci-fi, it's set in space. The thing I love about this is that it's a very short story, but it's really well realised. It's all to do with aliens, and it's got some really interesting, cool bits inside of it, which I just wasn't expecting. The plot twists were great, and I loved it. I think it's a great little story by Sanderson. If you've not read it, I would definitely recommend it, and I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I ended up reading, again from Sanderson's website for free, is I Hate Dragons, and this is a short story again. And this one I really enjoyed. I thought it was a great story. It was very light-hearted and enjoyable, and it wasn't very similar to a lot of his other work, which I really enjoyed. Plus, it has dragons in it, so why would I not love it? This is a story of a boy named Skip who lives in a world where people have knacks. Knacks are basically kind of magical traits that certain people in that world have, and he has 2. He has the ability to hear punctuation. Even if you don't mispronounce a word, but you actually would have spelt it wrong, he will be able to hear when you speak if you would have said that word wrong, which is really interesting and quite hard to explain, but you get the gist, hopefully. His other knack is he smells delightful to dragons, and he is very tempting for dragons, so if you ever want to lure dragons to you, he is a great bait for that. And of course that is kind of how the story begins. He is travelling with a troupe who are luring in dragons, which is always destined to be a great little story. It's fantastic, I loved it, and I gave that one a 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Next, I read Infinity Blade Redemption, again by Sanderson. I was on a little bit of a Sanderson novella kick this month, and this book is the continuation of the first in the Infinity Blade series, and it follows the same characters. However, it skips a large amount of time between the first book and the second book, which depends on you playing the actual Infinity Blade game. And I didn't know that when I went into the second book, which meant I was very confused to begin with until I looked it up and found out that you do actually have to play the game to really understand what is going on, what has changed. I didn't really like it. It wasn't really as good as the first book in my opinion. It didn't grip my attention, and the characters felt a little bit forced into their roles, and it didn't feel like there was much development throughout the story of the characters, which I really was a bit disappointed in. I don't think I will be continuing on with this series. Although I loved the first one, I thought it was really interesting. This one just was a letdown, and I definitely felt like having the dependence of playing the game to be able to continue with the series really limited the audience and made it very much linked only to the game, not an accessible read for everyone. So I only gave that one a 2 out of 5 stars, unfortunately. Next, I read book number 7 in the Wheel of Time series, A Crown of Swords. This one is much shorter than book number 6, which is why I was able to get through it so fast. Also, I listened to this one on audiobook, which makes it way more fun. And I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really quick, easy read. Book number 6 ends on a huge, massive high. I gave that one 5 stars, so I loved it. Book number 7 is kind of coming off of that high. There are interesting things that happen. There are still really great plot twists, and there are still really great character development going on. However, it just wasn't on par with the great ending of book number 6. So I ended up giving that one a 4 out of 5 stars, although I did really enjoy it, and I would still recommend it. I haven't slowed down in the series. I think it's really interesting still, and I'm very much enjoying book number 8 that I'm currently listening to as well. Next, I ended up joining in with #Woolvember, which was created by Brock from Let's Read, and I ended up reading Wool by Hugh Howey. This is a collection of novellas set in the same world and following different characters from that world, and it's set in a dystopian world where people live underground in a silo, a massive silo, because the air outside has been contaminated. and we follow 3 different characters in the storyline to see what the silo life is like, how it came to be as it is, and what is potentially going to happen in the future. We start off following the police detective, then we follow the mayor, and finally we follow our main protagonist for the rest of the novellas in the book, which is Juliet. Each of them is a great character in their own right, and their storylines are interesting. It was very, very fast-paced. I was gripped by it. I felt like it was a great story, really driving you on and making you want to read it and find out what was going to happen. It's an adult dystopian, which is something I've never really read before, and I really, really enjoyed it. I definitely want to pick up the next one in the series very, very soon, because I do own all of them, which is great, so I'm highly looking forward to continuing, and I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The Three-Body Problem, which I ended up reading with a whole group of different booktubers, and we actually did a live show over on Nicole's channel, which is Nicole's Adventures in SFF. I will link all of the channels I've mentioned down below so you guys can go and check them out. But we did a live show on her channel and we really enjoyed it. We were talking about this book for ages and just having a blast chatting about all of the ideas that are from this book. It's actually a translation of a Chinese really, really popular sci-fi book, and it's a really, really interesting read. It's been translated very, very well. It's great. I enjoyed it. I felt like it was a very approachable adult sci-fi read as opposed to one that was really difficult to get into. It was very easy to get into. I would definitely recommend it. I gave that one a 4 out of 5 stars and yeah, really enjoyed it. Next, I ended up finishing A Darkness at Sethanon, which I wasn't hugely impressed by. I felt like the first and second books I enjoyed a lot. This one I didn't enjoy anywhere near as much, even though it follows the same characters. For me, it just ended in a rather crazy way, and everything was a bit blown out of proportion, and everything was kind of trying a bit too hard. That's the vibe I got from this book, was that everything was trying to beat what had gone before, and everything that happens in the previous books is quite crazy already, so this book was just trying too hard to be even more epic and amazing, and it didn't quite achieve that. It kind of fell a bit flat for me. So I only gave this one a 2.5 stars, which wasn't fantastic. Next, I listened to Legion Skin Deep, which is book number 2 in the Legion series by Brandon Sanderson. Again, another Sanderson book. This one I listened to on audiobook and I really enjoyed it. It's a great continuation with the series. You get to see a lot more about the characters and the hallucinations. I loved it. I thought it was great. I definitely enjoyed listening to it as well because it really brings the characters to life and makes you very, very interested in them. I think this is a great continuation and I will definitely be continuing on with this series. I would say that this series is probably classed as a crime fantasy series. Each of the books in this series are very, very short, but they are interesting in their own way and they're kind of mysteries. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing where it goes because things are being hinted at in this book, which means that there's going to be more books in the future. So I want to know where things are going to go from here, and it was definitely a great, great little story. So I gave that one a 4.5 stars, which was great. Finally, I managed to finish up Russian Roulette, which is by Anthony Horowitz, and this is book number 10 in the Alex Rider series. I really enjoyed this series growing up. I thought it was great, and this was no exception. I really enjoyed this summation of Yasen Grigorovich's life. Yasen is a bad guy in the series of Alex Rider, but we don't know that much about him until we read this book, which is basically a story of how he came to be the hired killer that he ends up as for the Alex Rider series. I thought it was great. I loved being back in this world. I loved the writing style of Horowitz. I think he's very, very gripping and very interesting to read. And I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. So those are all of the books that I managed to finish in the month of November. I was very, very happy with the amount that I read. There are a few books that I wanted to read that I didn't get to. Some of those will be in my December TBR, which will be coming up soon. However, I am currently listening to The Path of Daggers, book number 8 in the Wheel of Time, which I am about halfway through, so hopefully that will be finished up in the month of December for sure. I'm also currently reading Theft of Swords, which is by Michael J. Sullivan. I'm loving this series, I think it's great, and I'm going to review the 2 books in this bind-up, which are The Crown Conspiracy and Abenpatha, and I'm going to review the 2 of them together so that you can look out for that double review coming in the next week or so, I would imagine, because I'm very, very close to the end. I am about 75% of the way through this, and I'm really, really loving it. So hopefully I will have a very positive review for you guys in the next few days. I'm also currently reading Promise of Blood by Brian McKellen, and I'm really enjoying this. This is one of the first Flintlock fantasies I've ever read, and I'm very much loving it. McKellen was actually a student of Sanderson, so it's definitely very Sanderson-esque in style, which is cool, but he has his own writing traits as well, which is great, and I'm very much enjoying it, even though I'm only about 20% of the way through that. Hopefully I will finish that up in the next week as well, and you will see the reviews for all three of them coming up very soon. Thank you guys for watching. I know this has been a bit of a long one, so thank you for staying till the end. I'd love to know what you guys have been reading in the month of November. If you've done a November wrap-up, then link it down below and I will go and watch it, because I'm always intrigued. And I will see you all very soon in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about the